Hi, welcome back. I thought what I would do today is just try and polish up on some of the thoughts and some of the examination of the events that have happened recently. So today's broadcast isn't about speculation. It's to try and do things a little bit more polished. What I'm going to talk about is built on documented events, traceable records, multiple witnesses. It's confusing. I don't pretend to get everything correct, but I can't just work as an island. So this broadcast is about being authentic. It's about talking about my perspective, and it can be very flawed. I do know that. But to the best that I have been able to, this is where we have arrived. So last week, or about a week ago, you might have noticed in the Christian Life and Ministry, and today is the 26th of July 2025. So it isn't that long ago that in the Christian Life and Ministry meetings for Jehovah's Witnesses across congregations, not just in South Africa, but in many interconnected countries via Zoom, elders drew attention to a Watchtower reference from 2006, 4/1, pages 9 to 10. So that reference again is Watchtower 2006, January, February, March, April 1st, pages 9 to 10. Now I'm going to quote it. Of course, I've been told this is copyright, so I can get a copyright violation. That's the threat. But let's say fair use, right? Because it's about teaching. I don't know how else to teach other than to use this printed page. Anyway, it says, of course, children are children. That's the quote. It starts off, quote, of course, children are children. Foolishness is tied up with the heart of a boy. The rod of discipline is what will remove it far from him. The rod, though, at times literal, represents parental authority that is administered firmly but lovingly. Shall I repeat that? The quote says, the rod, though at times literal, represents parental authority that is administered firmly but lovingly. So anybody who had that Christian Life and Ministry worksheet would be able to see that that was the reference. So I'm going to ask the question, is that wording neutral? If you leave it as it is, without the warning of what can happen in various regions, like South Africa, for instance, but there's many other countries that use the same Christian Life and Ministry. It leaves open the idea that a literal rod, physical punishment, can still be lovingly applied. Now, if that was the absolute rule, Jehovah's Witnesses would carry that out obediently. When we've come through many, many dangers. Some have faced death, not just once or twice, but many times. Facing fear. If you've grown up a Jehovah's Witness, you've been conditioned to face fear, to make stands, be it at school and for all kinds of reasons. So I will say that in my experience, generally, people want to do the right thing. Give them the right kind of guidance, right kind of direction. They want to do the right thing. So this wording here in this Watchtower 2006 4-1, pages 9 to 10, and I'm repeating it because I really want to make sure that this record is really straight as it possibly can be. And if I've made a mistake, please tell me. The quote, "The rod, though at times literal, represents parental authority that is administered firmly but lovingly." So I want to ask, a genuine wheat, a genuine Jehovah's Witness who wants to do the right thing, do we uphold Jeffrey Jackson's direction? Or do we take this Watchtower 2006 4-1, pages 9 to 10, and say that that is the updated information because that was done in the recent Christian Life and Ministry meeting? So again, I'm going to emphasize, is this wording neutral? Or does it leave open the idea that a literal rod, physical punishment, can still be lovingly applied? There are some who apply the physical punishment with the intent to be very loving and give an explanation. And then there are those that are alarmingly abusive, disturbingly so. But I'd like to believe that those that are alarmingly abusive are not that many. I'd like to believe that that's isolated. Yes, in my career I've come across a lot of that, but I want to believe that that is just exceptional in my circle, in my experience, because my assignments were such that I was put into hotspot after hotspot after hotspot. So I want to believe that just myself, I represent this irregularity anyway to begin with, besides personality. So at the Australian Royal Commission, Jeffrey Jackson, who is a governing body member, he gave a sworn testimony to say that corporal punishment is not to be practiced among Jehovah's Witnesses. He explained that the rod is standards. He explained that, yes, corporal punishment was something that was done in the past. It's history. It happened. And fairly recently, not that too long ago. But the point is that what is coming up here between with what Jeffrey Jackson says as a governing body member under oath and then what comes through a repeated Watchtower reference, maybe by accident, I don't know. I've spotted errors in publications and I write to the particular branch if it's an error that's in a particular language. I'm told, go and write to that particular branch. That's the procedure. Write a letter. Sadly, that letter doesn't always get to the branch because that's another matter. I'll tell you about post and the postal addresses that are on the website and what happens with those. That's another subject. But there are errors. The 2013 Bible that was released, I remember going to the United States, East River, and receiving a Bible there that had a printing error. So that happens. And some can be recalled, and then there can be an instruction given to the printery, and something can be done about it. And that's great when it's working like that, and you don't have anybody digging their heels in and calling you an apostate and just going wild with spiritual warfare against your own people. Great. But I am going to say in my career, it seldom works like that. It usually, I think it is the culture. We're on such a high alert, or nerves are on such high alert, or its limits in education, or a complex array of reasons that invariably it goes into high alert. And you come in and you've got your facts about you. You're taking a risk. You've checked. You've made a call to service desk. You've got a Bible student who's now a circuit overseer. He's on the circuit, and you say, "Listen, I need to ask you a question." And you consult. And you check, and then you present the information, and then they go into libel. They go, "Oh, we're going to lie about you to just discredit you," and it doesn't get sorted out because you are lunatic fringe. Matt, you are part of the lunatic fringe. You always have been. And yeah, I agree. But the society of people, whatever it is that we do, it's made up of all kinds of personalities. Persons who fit in, persons who are on the edge of being very, very different. Did Christ come to die for those who are different? The prostitute, the tax collector, the Pharisee? Yes. He didn't extinguish the smouldering flaxen wick or the broken weed or just break it apart, did he? He was into restoring where he could, even going up to those who had a legion of demons and expelling them and restoring the person to health. I like to believe I'm a restorationist at heart. If there's something wrong, I'd like to fix it. I'm not quick to burn down the house. And I've said this to brothers deep in the organization who I've had the privilege of training. I say, yeah, I can see this has gone wrong, and it's frustrating. And man, yeah, I'm wounded physically. I've been in this thing for years in full-time service, special pioneering, Bethel, forming congregations here, there, being sent from one country to another, doing all kinds of things. And I don't say that to go, what a hero, Matt. Maybe that is there. Tell me I'm a hero, eh? But the point of saying that is to say, I've accumulated some life experience with some real deeper issues and being immersed where a lot of persons haven't been immersed. And I'd like to believe that that's a good thing. I'd like to believe that my career is taking me around the world and taking me to meet and talk with the governing body. Somebody asked me, how many of the governing body have you spoken to? Quite a lot. There have been some who have been very chatty with me, and there's been some who have been quite evasive. I think of Samuel Hurd. I remember having very frank conversations with him. Gloria very protective of him. And we spoke about all kinds of private things, but one of the things that does stand out with him was, I remember him telling me he's tired. Very, very tired. And he told me that must be about 13 years ago. So he was tired then. And I've seen him in action. I was able to see what he was able to accomplish with clarity of mind. Incredible. And so, yeah, I value those experiences. David Splane, another one, when there was the change to the generation. I remember talking with him. We were discussing the younger tribes, Joseph and Benjamin, and it was about, well, we must welcome in the young brothers, the young tribe. And of course there was the crossover generation, and all of that was explained. I don't remember discussing that, but I remember discussing the tribe of Benjamin, tribe of Joseph, with his wife present. We were eating crumb chicken that day. And so it wasn't very formal, but it was an incredible discussion that we were able to have. And I remember talking to him later on about the same thing. Jeffrey Jackson, I found him not wanting to take the spotlight, and I was impressed with that. I thought, yeah, great. There's a humble man. Anthony Morris, I remember being with him, and he would just often say to me, I got to run. In other words, I don't want to talk too much. Who else? Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce was a surprise because I remember a circuit overseer talking about how he's had meals with Guy Pearce. And I almost wanted to say to him, did you invite Guy Pearce to the meal? Or did Guy Pearce invite you to the meal? How did it work? Did you arrange it, or did he arrange it? Because he arranged it. And he arranged it almost like a status thing to draw attention to himself, so that he can say, oh, you see, I'm the deserved circuit overseer who knows what he's talking about. Anyway, Guy Pearce calls me and my roommate. And I think in the last interview I did just now, I was talking about having your mind blown. Well, I had my mind blown on this occasion because Guy Pearce was reading my reports. And I remember my roommate being quite stunned about it. And he says, well, you boys, I just want to tell you we're making changes based on those reports. And we were like, okay, great. That's amazing. And he starts quoting the reports. And we realized he'd actually read these things. He'd actually spent time reading these things. And we thought, wow, it's got through the chain. But of course, here's the policy. You're not to discuss names or who's involved in a policy change, because the saying is it must be seen as coming from Jehovah, not from men. That's how it works. So it is supposed to keep the ego down. It's got this good intention of giving glory and direction to Jehovah. That's the intent. And keeping us with these experiences that are quite incredible in our place as humble people. I think that's the intention. You could think about it a little bit more and say, well, I think there is a lot more involved in the psychology. And as you learn a bit more, you discover that to be true. But coming back to Jeffrey Jackson, governing body member, he gave sworn testimony that corporal punishment is not to be practiced among Jehovah's Witnesses. And then in the CLM we have a reference to 2006 Watchtower. Now I was thinking that the reference was even older than that, to 1996, or I was looking at the index and seeing that this is one of those scriptures about the rod of discipline that hasn't been commented on so much. It's been left ambiguous. And maybe it's because you've got different countries with different policies. You could say that. But if you're going to be international, you need to be careful about what you discuss at these meetings, because as I was saying with the police, if you now direct a congregation with this information, and you become more specific. Like an elder gets up and he says, yeah, well, I'm going to be very specific now. I'm going to actually say, beat your child based on this paragraph. And he's taken something that's kind of ambiguous, or you could say it isn't, it's very specific, but let's be, excuse me, devil's advocate here and say, that there is some kind of loophole, that being physical means physically leading somebody to a room and saying, well, you're going to stay in your room. But it hasn't been coming through like that. It's been coming through on the platform, no, beat your child. And do we know of parents that have beaten their child? Yes. Yeah. But it becomes very complicated about reporting that to the police, because they want to know who is reporting and why and what's your motive, and you've got to respect parents, and you've got to respect other families, you've got to respect boundaries. Police will tell you. So you might go in with a good intention and say, well, look, this is what I've seen, or I was sent a cell phone video of a horrendous beating, and you can identify who it is. And the police do investigate, and they will have handled things their own way, and you find that somehow it didn't go further for whatever reason. I don't know what those are. It's complex enough as it is. So anyway, why is this legally and morally explosive? Well, once elders publicly encourage parents to interpret the rod as literal, even ambiguously, they've placed their congregations, their branch offices, and the governing body itself under potential legal exposure. If somebody is actually beaten, there's this liability trace. And especially if now you've written and you've registered your post and you've seen that the branch has accepted it, because you've got to make sure that they accept it. They can leave registered post in the post office and not collect it. And you can see it on the system, not collected. So you might have to use courier systems, and you might have to do it not once, twice. You'll have to do it several times and keep your record. It's not easy. But if you've now traced it and you're saying, well, who's picked up on this thing? Who's signed for this? Where is it in the system? And you really are tracing it down. And you know that it's got to governing body service department. And you know the names. And you've done it not once, you've done it several times. So and been punished for it. How about this? That your reputation is just destroyed. I'm not talking about just losing your nerves because you feel like you are living on a knife's edge, But they just decide to use this thing of, oh, we are imperfect, and I've decided to lie about you to put you in your place, and now you're stuck, and I'm going to call my friend and he's going to agree with me, and you're going to watch your career just die, and we will show mercy on you and put you into some awful assignment with the hope that you actually resign. My partner's dead. My pioneer partner's dead. He didn't survive. I did. As you can see, if you could call this survival. My other friend, and this is a pattern, I can't say foul play, I can just say it's a pattern. My other friend who knew of liabilities, he gets in branch vehicle and dead. I can tell you of another friend of mine, communicates sensitive information to me, which I was allowed to have as an elder, dead. And they're these weird patterns. And I go, what's happening here? Every time there seems to be some headway, people die in weird ways. But I can't cry foul play. I just say that's a pattern. But it's enough to put me on alert, going, I better be really careful with this. And it's happened. I go, if I expose these things, some real loyal people have said to me, Matt, how did you know that you shouldn't be in this area? Or how did you instinctively know? And I just go, well, I wasn't overthinking it. I just sort of sensed that I shouldn't be in that place. And they said they were waiting for you. They're going to get physical with you. Warnings have been issued. I personally have submitted written, traceable, witnessed, evidenced communications to the branch. I have exhausted Matthew 18, 15 to 35. You want to say 77 times? I've lost count. Over years, decades. This is not new. I don't know how I've lasted this long, actually. But I've personally submitted written, traceable communications to the branch. Not one branch. I thought I had help of local elders. I trusted. and this is where you've got to forgive yourself, or I've got to forgive myself because I've trusted. And if it was like a one-off thing, you could go, oh yeah, it's a mistake. But when it happens over and over and over and over, and I'm still in gaga land thinking, yeah, these are just mistakes, and it hasn't dawned on me that it's a deliberate action. But I don't give up, and I trace these things down, and I discover it's a pattern, yeah. And there seems to be the same thing over and over and over. It's a potential liability. It's an embarrassment. I see it. So here we have Christian Life and Ministry about a week, about a week back. And warnings have already been issued, so I don't know now. 3 years ago when I started with this particular thing about corporal punishment, is it 3 years? It's about 3 years. Started corresponding, and I got direction. I said to the branch, I said, how do I present this in a way that's non-offensive? How do I support Jeffrey Jackson? And how do I bring in the brothers so that they don't get offended? How do we do it? And we put together letters at service desk, and I got friends to check it. And implement it. Step by step. Here we go. Step by step. Let's make sure. Let's make sure. And I'm documenting. I'm making sure. There's a record there. There's a receipt. I'm making sure. Because I am not letting this just be hearsay. And so once elders publicly encourage parents to interpret the rod as literal, and I'm only focusing in on this thing because it's happened now. Elders have placed their congregations, the branch officers, the governing body, the whole lot under potential legal exposure. And remember, we've got people to protect on all sorts of levels. Children, parents, families, community. The warnings have been issued. I said ad nauseum. I've made sure it's traceable. Have I gone to police? Yes. And I'm going to explain why. To make deposition. Because at least if there is deposition and something happens, there's no statute of limitations. And even in some bizarre way, if this never gets traction, it's got to change somewhere, sometime. What we definitely know is the branch and elders cannot claim ignorance on this. And I do see fear. I see elders with good conscience, and they will look for a way to bring some sort of accountability. But it isn't easy. There are people who are very fearful about losing their place at Bethel or their life investment. Yeah. They've got good reason to be. And I really feel for all involved here. But communities have been put on notice. And by the way, I'm a believer in this. I'm a believer that if you have truth, even if you kind of wild on some things, it can get adjusted. And if you have the right kind of communication with people, you can use people as a springboard as long as you're honest and you're truthful and you're prepared to make the adjustment, right? And so love grows in the soil of truth, even if it's a real uncomfortable, lousy, dirty soil of truth. If you stick with that intention, irrespective of different language, even different interpretations, if you've got the goal of pursuing truth in love and being honest at even personal cost, I am a believer that that's the way to heal things. Yes, people have different perspectives, but be truthful. In this case, the branch and the elders, they can't claim ignorance. Communities have been put on notice. We've got the records. I've got the witnesses. There are depositions. So if a child in South Africa or Lesotho, Namibia, Western Botswana, everything that comes into the South African region at least, or is connected to broadcast. And I know in the Zoom broadcast, you've got Zoom broadcast going through to England. And I know that there's persons in the circuits I've served with that are there in England. And I've dealt with cases, and they're in England, and they're sending me photographs. Hello, Matt, how are you? And all this kind of thing. If a child anywhere in just South Africa or this region that is connected to these broadcasts, there is any report of physical punishment, liability is going to be far harder to escape, because I'm telling you, the record's there. And if I die, I've got a kill switch, meaning all my records are available. Crumbs, Matt, are you serious? Yes, I've got a kill switch. I've had to do it. So we now have entered into the age of removal as opposed to disfellowshipping, the more enlightened removal, if you can call that such. I want to talk about it because the whistleblowers removal, if they are removed because 1, 2, 3 elders have said, yeah, we don't like what you're saying, you're going against the watchtower, and you're saying, but that's what the governing body has said, we need to at least put a letter through, folks. We need to put a traceable letter. Are you going to help me with this? No. Don't like your attitude, don't like your thinking process, so guess what? We're removing privileges, your career. Poof, take a look on Hub. It's just vanished. What makes this more serious is the process that leads up to removal of elders, pioneers that are whistleblowers. You see, that ambiguous paragraph about the rod was first due to be announced from the platform. And I can think about it, a case that's traceable 3 years ago. And the elder steps forward and does what any loyal elder does, goes to the auxiliary councillor, goes to the COBE, processes it. You can see, you can trace it. There's the information, there's the mail. Not just verbal, there it is, boom, in the correspondence. So the branch has been sitting with this. I don't know for how long, but I know for when they've signed for documents. And a lot of time has passed. And a lot of discussion. The material was researched, the procedures were effected so that nobody should be offended. And so the direction on how to present to fellow elders was in a way that aligned with Jeffrey Jackson, Mark Sanderson. Oh, he's another one. I spent good time with Mark. And I made sure I was aligned with Jeffrey Jackson's sworn testimony in the Australian Royal Commission that corporal punishment is not to be practiced among Jehovah's Witnesses. Dunk, full stop, the end. Because it's just a mess. Stop this thing. We sorted out the beard thing, and that led to other things. And I've got the correspondence on that as well, or what contributed to dismantling that. But instead of cooperation, the local elders, they became evasive, combative. And I understand the fear. I understand what's happened. But this congregation is different to other congregations. I contacted other congregations and they weren't offended. And they processed the letters. We're tracing those. So let's see what happens there. But if those come back and we see what's happened there, is this just a satellite congregation now that the branch can distance itself? Yeah, I know of congregations that have just evaporated and disappeared and been struck off. I've been involved in those too. And there is a lot of fear because elders do know about the child abuse story. I mean, if you're in the field ministry, you're going to hear about it. You're actually going to hear every, quote marks, apostate thing under the sun if you're going and you're doing field ministry. If you are doing your field ministry properly, you're going to hear everything. But local elders became evasive, combative, they refused to be open, honest communication, weren't transparent. And it was at the point when they were now using libel, slander, and records were disappearing, I went, no, I can't carry on like this. Yeah, my health took a... I thought I was gone, eh? Not once, several times. And I'm still not out of the woods. I might be talking like this, but let me tell you, thanks to L-theanine and caffeine and methylene blue and all sorts of things, because I said to my doctors, I said, please protect my brain because I'm shutting down. And I'm monitor my oxygen and all of this kind of stuff because, yeah, you talking, or I'm talking now, and you think everything's all right. This is an improvement, folks. Have I walked the valley of deep shadow? I'm still there. So I look at the local elders and I go repeatedly, they're not to be trusted. The sister congregation, not to be trusted. I've seen the minutes, they don't tally with what was submitted. There's variance. And I see it's been sanitized. And I say to persons that have receipted the original transcripts, I say, tell me, what do you see here when you put this together with this? Yeah, we can see a variance. Why? It's been sanitized. Why? You got scared, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. All right. So you don't have the transparency and the accountability you should have. And I mean, I got wise and was endeavoring to do that, and it's still hard to create that. It's still very, very difficult to create that. Now look, midway through ongoing witness discussions, I can think of an elder who was whistleblower and he was removed as a pioneer and an elder, and it was ambiguous. They say, oh, he's removed. And you go, why? Why? Oh, no, well, we tried to contact this person, but I say, when? How? And we know that it wasn't done properly. And it's just creating more and more defensiveness. So with this particular elder, they insisted on their scriptural rights, having witnesses, having it transparent, having it accountable, and it was denied over and over and over again. When you took elders separately, they go, yeah, we can see it should be done this way, or it should be done that. When you put them together as the group, they lose their spine. And you go, but didn't we discuss this? Haven't we discussed the evidence? And so good people have been removed after many years of loyal service, of going through hell. I mean, you're not talking about people who just, lose their minds or, start worshipping the devil in a ring, It happens right at the point that there is these accumulating liabilities. So, you have to say, well, what's going on? And it always happens when maybe the branch owes something, or somebody's done full-time service for so many years and they're supposed to get some of the subsidy or the benefits or the health benefits or the retirement package or something like this or whatever for their full-time service, and they've just missed it by a month or this narrow margin. So to be out in the open, to remove somebody according to PR, public relations, and policy, you've got to remove a person for solid, transparent grounds of wrongdoing. So even if there's a faint complaint, isn't an elder entitled to transparent communication with witnesses present to counter any allegations? Well, in this case, that didn't happen. Now in South Africa, we have something called POPIA, P-O-P-I-A, which the intention was to protect people from data breaches, And I want to talk about data breaches because it's one of those weird things. You can get, let's say, an article on spirits of the dead. It's a brochure that talks about spirits. But here's the weird thing. You can have a brother or sister come into your personal space and report to the elders that you have something on spiritism. And you can say, yeah, but it's our own brochure that's a warning. No, you're not allowed to talk. Yeah, we've got the evidence, 1, 2 elders. And something that was supposed to be protective has become weaponized. And you're going, well, so the Bible's got the book of Job, right, about Satan. You're telling me that that conversation Satan has with God is... You're now framing it that I've got satanic verses because those are Satan's words. This is crazy. Of course I'm going to say I've got the book of Job. So Popia is supposed to protect people from this crazy stuff. But anyway, it's spiritual warfare, isn't it? So elders, they claim to have tried to contact this elder who's the whistleblower, but they'd bypassed all the established channels. They manipulated records. They were controlling the narrative. It's a conflict of interest. So ethically, it shouldn't have even happened like that. But the reality is clear. You get a loyal elder, follows the correct channels, not in a small window, repeatedly. Upholding sworn testimony. He's gone to court to protect children. Becomes the whistleblower legitimately for upholding a direction from the governing body, not for going against it. Has gone to service desk and said, how do I do this? And follows the instructions. Gets disciplined, ambiguously removed, no explanation. People ask, they go, well, trust right thing's been done, and if and they do this if imperfectly we have made a mistake, if we've made a mistake, and they know they have. Jehovah will fix it, like Mephibosheth. I'm going to say that this case is not a pattern of a so-called apostate in the traditional sense. This is a silencing of a concerned elder who became ill under the pressure of the circumstances. I mean, this is what happens. The elder returns very sick, has been knocking on death's door, very sick, returns back to the congregation, and little kids that have never been affectionate or demonstrative come into his personal space, give him a hug, and he's like, no, I don't, this is not a good idea, folks. And then he gets a phone call. Oh, sorry, we know you've got a health problem. My kid's sick. I couldn't do anything to stop that. And you go, are you using children as a weapon? Because you don't like how things have transpired. That's disturbing. They go, well, if you all up to date with your medicines, I'm sure Jehovah will protect you. I just know if you're sick, don't go anywhere near Granny, because your sickness can make Granny die. So is that like attempted murder? Maybe that's another subject to talk about. But in this case, with this, what was it, making a mistake from the platform about beating your kids or using corporal punishments, this is silencing of concerned people, concerned elders. It's not just an elder. And others have become ill under the pressure of the circumstances after decades of being loyal. And let's be candid. When Matthew 18:15 to 35 has been applied over and over again in good faith for, in this case, 3 years at least, on multiple connected matters, and the system still retaliates, is that not a crime? Is that not another crime? And if they've been doing full-time work over 70 hours, 140 hours, 150 hours, limited sleep, so are they not workers? Volunteer workers, sure. Is there no rights? I don't know. I grew up pretty insular, so a lot of these things I don't have answers for. So, contacting the branch, being removed ambiguously and being retained somehow, simultaneously, and then asking, well, what's the current status, folks? Because clearly there is communication going on. What does it mean going forward? What's the solution? Elders, branches can't say that they haven't been warned. The community of Jehovah's Witnesses in this particular case, if you want to use this as an example for all kinds of other institutions, with the combination of public platform announcements, ambiguous references to the rod being literal, documented warnings to the branch and local elders, and then retaliatory removal of a whistleblower elder, there's a paper trail of liability. Now, if a child is harmed just in South Africa, Lesotho, or Namibia, or Western Botswana, or any country connected via Zoom to these meetings, can you say that the organization can hide behind freedom of religion? The pattern's visible, it's traceable, it's documented, it's even sitting with police in deposition. Is it a planet-wide issue? Yes, it's not just local. It's not just South Africa. The Watchtower reference 2006 reference is global. So elders worldwide, they face a crisis. Do they uphold governing body member, representative at the ARC, Jeffrey Jackson, or do they quietly reinforce the culture, which is complex in itself with its shareholders and lawyers and all of this kind of stuff, and looks like there is some kind of division, let's say wheat and weeds, so that we don't block things here to say, yeah, look, the scriptures warned about this kind of thing. Every congregation has to consider, are we complicit? Are we accountable if a child is harmed? And there is horrendous stuff that happens. I've seen horrendous stuff. Do we ignore that a whistleblower elder is silenced for raising exactly these concerns? Now, I'm focusing on elder. It's not just elders that have gone through these processes. So I want to say, we'll raise the question, should we not make this a public warning? Should we not say this is a public warning now? Should we not say that this is the time for evasive answers to end? It's over. And should we not say that the time of accountability has arrived? The written records exist, the witnesses exist, and the consequences for ignoring this thing, which represents others. This is just a case where we've documented. If we ignore this legally, morally, spiritually, oh man, I don't know what kind of question to ask now. What are the consequences? Now I have to apologize for my presentation. I try and keep it with AI. I try and keep it orderly because I know that just talking even with notes or extemporaneously, it's a strain. And if you have come this far, thank you. I told you about may you hear about my friends and family. I want to say You are the reason I'm here. You're the reason I'm still alive. Thank you very much for bearing with me. Thank you for coming onto my channel if you're a subscriber. Thank you for the deep respect. Thank you for persevering, for looking into these monologues that I've woven in every now and then. Thank you very, very much. You're important to me. I'm grateful, thankful. And by the way, even though these experiences might be very, very hard, I like learning. I like emerging from these things with some kind of solution. And in my intuition, in my innermost self, I believe it's getting better. I actually believe we're going to get on top of this. And I get an excitement from that. So thank you again. It's Matthew Mile Gray, sometimes Captain Deadpan Soul, sometimes Lunar Kismet, sometimes the holographic punk prophet, sometimes the manner of mystery, but I'm signing off. Go well.